This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by the Marketing Masters. The Marketing Masters is a boutique marketing agency offering website development and digital marketing services to small and medium businesses across America. For more information on how they can help you grow your business online, please visit themarketingmasters.com. Welcome to another edition of the Impact Podcast. I'm John Shegerian. I'm so honored and excited to have today my friend Mark Sadovnik. He's with us as a guest on Impact. Welcome to Impact, Mark.
I'm super delighted to be here. Thanks for having me, John.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. We've known each other through common friends for years. We've been to conferences together. I'm a huge fan of your work at the Element Group. And I just would love for you to share today a little bit about your background first. I want our listeners to get to know you, Mark, about your journey leading up to the Element Group and how you even got to where you are today.
How much time we got, John?
We got as much time as you want, Mark. This is all about you.
All about me. That's a dangerous path to go down. Well, thanks. So, originally from Montreal, huge hockey fan, and learned a lot about sports. And, I guess if you want to start, one person that taught me a lot in my life was my grandfather, who, him and my grandmother were from Kiev, Russia. My mom and aunt and them came over like in the 20s or something. And, but the, things I remember most about him was we'd go for walks as a kid with him, and he would smile at everybody and smile the next one. And I would say, we called him Zeta, which was the Jewish term to call him. I said, Zeta, how do you know all these people? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, you smile at all these people. How do you know them all? I says, I don't know them all. I just noticed that when I smile at them, they smile and look happy, and then I smile and I'm happy. So it's great. I'm thinking,
that's so great.
Okay, cool. And he was super kind and super friendly to everybody. And he would share stories about his past in Russia. And then after that, but that stuck with me for so long, about kindness and caring about people. And that was like the first, maybe youngest glimpse. And then, I went to school and I was involved in community stuff, and I enjoyed it. It's like that. What do they say around Christmas? It's better to give than to get. You feel better, type of thing. And and being involved in the community, there was a light inside of me that it just felt good. And then I actually wanted to be a sports broadcaster when I was younger. They were going to change my name to Mark Jansen, actually. And
Wow.
But then my mom and dad said, well, don't you think you should be like an accountant or an attorney or something? And so I went into accounting. Thanks, Mom. I went into accounting. I was really good at it, which was the bad part, because I really didn't like it at all. And
Right.
But this all just flowing this maybe a little bit faster. I had an influencer at Deloitte, a partner. He was the only partner that actually recognized that the other partners saw that I was really good at what I did, and they wanted me to work on stuff, which is fine. I appreciated that. But he saw that I really didn't like it. And he actually was caring enough to say, well, you should be talking to clients. He made me the MC of all the events they did. We'd go up to see clients, we'd talk to clients and everything like that. And he made an impact on me about the people, and the relationships is equally as important, if not more important than everything else. And so kind of through my career at Deloitte, and then I was in Winnipeg, Canada, with a large real estate company there, and I got offered a job with the pro hockey team there. That was my dream job.
Oh, wow.
This is a kid from Montreal, played hockey, loves hockey, the whole bit. I got involved. I organized a fan club for kids there, and we had 3,000 kids in the club in a week. And so that was great community things. I got to know the team. And so they made me an offer for a senior marketing position at the team. I'm saying, damn, this is awesome. My dream job.
You just hit the jackpot. You hit the jackpot.
Yeah, wow. I almost won the Stanley Cup myself. And but at the same time, I was in an organization called the JCs, which is now called Junior Champion JCs, where it's about leadership development and community. And we lost having their World Congress in Winnipeg. We lost to Taipei. We were the two finalists.
Right.
And we lost. And you and I have talked about this somewhat, where things happen for a reason.
Right.
And so they offered me to come down and be executive director at this global headquarters nonprofit for leadership development. At the same time, I got offered my dream job with the hockey team.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, darn, now what? Every single person told me to take the position with the hockey team, except for the person from the hockey team that offered me that job.
What
basically.
do you mean? Really told you to take the other job?
He told me to take the other job. And I thought,
wow.
He's just seeing that if I really want this.
Right.
But he wasn't. He actually sat down with me. And I was pretty awestruck with this guy, big guy. He used to be a player on the Montreal Canadiens, a tough player, good scoring player and whatnot. And he was heading up the team there. So it was like, I'm an adult with a kid inside talking to this guy. And I said, Mark, I know you love this. You do a great job. That's why I offered it to you. But you know what? If I really cared about you, there's that word again. I remember it. If I really cared about you, I'd be saying, you're going to travel the world. You're going to meet leaders. You're going to have an exposure in other countries that are going to be incredible. Hockey's a game. It's a business. It's fun. It's fantastic. But you're not going to get another experience like that. You may get another one in hockey. You're not going to get another experience like that. The only one, including myself, that told me to take the other thing, and I did. I took that, and which, believe it or not, was major for turning down a dream job with a pro hockey team for me anyway.
No kidding. As a young man.
Yeah, exactly. So the word care kept following me, and I saw a lot of incredible leaders that were great. I saw some sucky ones too, to use a technical term. And it was an awesome experience of how leaders can make a difference around the world in all different ways, economically, social, and whatnot. And so did that for a while, got a lot of relationships, got into the executive search business, which is the core business that I do. And long story short, throughout those years, I always had a lot of discussions with leaders of, how do we get the very best people? How do we get the A players? Why are people leaving this and that and the other? And there was examples like a rider system was a big client. Had a lot of young families there and kids, and they were stressed out at work and a lot. And so I remember talking to them. Well, someone would say, "Well, we just got to figure out how do we get more and better people? We got to care more about them." So someone says more benefits, more this, that. And so we said, "Well, they miss their kids. Why don't we build a daycare center?" So they did. They built a daycare center, and we were able to talk about that the leaders at Ryder really care about their employees. You can be close to your kids and do that, and we started getting better people. Right. And Alamo changed one of their HR directors to a director of well-being, and back then that was 1990-ish. People thought, well, what are you doing? It was an article in the paper saying, give them a job in a treadmill, they should be happy, basically. And so unfortunately, it took guts to actually do that, but to represent them as leaders who cared made a difference for them, and they were able to keep people. And that just kept following me through my career, and led me, with my own firm. We were pretty successful regionally, nationally, and internationally because I had relationships, and then even coming to LA, growing it there, and I was recruited to join a global firm, and it was going well and good people, but I found that they were actually uncomfortable with the word care. And I think I told you this, they were uncomfortable with the word care. It was too intimate for business. And I joked with them saying, wow, what are you going to do when I start using the word love? You're going to go crazy. So it was around that point that I met what now are my Fifth Element Group partners. And we together launched Fifth Element about 2 years ago. I was still with my other firm at the same time as launching the Decade of Women initiative, which was about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal number 5, and empowering women and whatnot, and Fifth Element, and I just decided that we had a few people that were together. We decided we need to be together. We had complementary different backgrounds. One a top executive marketing and branding with Coca-Cola, Citibank, Ford, and Kellogg's. Another one worked with Matt Damon on water.org and in sports and entertainment, another one with foundations and nonprofits, another one well-being. Just the epitome of what I wanted to do. And I had trademarked just before that the term leaders who care. And we made a commitment that what we are is Fifth Element, which is basically named after the fifth industrial revolution, which has pretty well been declared as humanity to oversee the fourth industrial revolution, which is also going on right now about AI and blockchain and whatnot. But we're in charge of it, not the other way around. It's about humans and caring. And so that led us to great things happening where as partners, the core really of how we're making an impact and why we make an impact is aligning corporate brands, aligning family offices with social impact, not just because, not a donation, but getting them a higher return on investment, a higher return on value, a measured brand warmth, how consumers and talent feel about them. And at the same time allows us to attract them the best people who only want to go work for leaders who care, who are making a difference. But it's not sacrificing money for that. And it's not just making a donation. There's this, if you can be for profit and for good, as you well know, because you have done this for years, you can do both and do better for both.
That's well said. And for our listeners who've just joined us, we're honored to have today with us Mark Sadnovic. He's the partner at the Fifth Element Group. To learn more about Mark's great and important and impactful work at the Fifth Element Group, you could go to Fifth and you go with a 5. You go use the number 5, elementgroup.com. Fifth Element Group, and it's a .org. It's a .group. Oh, okay. FifthElement.group. For all our listeners out there, you go to FifthElement.group. There's no.
You know what's great about that?
Oh my gosh!
More times than you would have, so it gives us even better exposure.
And then I'll say it about 5 more times, and I might get it right by the end of this broadcast. But Mark. First of all, I don't want. I mean, you're so humble, and you're such a good human being. You just glanced over your headhunting days, and I don't want our listeners to just think, "Oh, well, Mark was a headhunter." You were recognized by Business Week as one of the most influential 150 headhunters in the entire world. So, I just want you to take just to give us a little nugget. When you're a headhunting and you're doing this for quite some time as a profession, you become an expert at people. You become a people expert. And so before we go into all the great stuff that you launched 2 years ago at Fifth Element, which is tons to go over, give our listeners a nugget or two. What did you learn about people to become one of the top headhunters in the world that we could all take with us to interrelate with people better than we do today?
It's a great. It's such an important question. One of my favorite quotes in the world, and there's a lot, is Maya Angelou, who said, "Most people will forget what you said. Most people will forget what you've done, but they will always remember how you made them feel."
Oh, I love that quote. That is just the best. Yeah,
it is. It's so true. It's so deep and yet so simple.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It goes back to my grandfather making people smile, basically.
Right.
And it really, if you're looking to do, build long-term trust, long-term relationships, and not just, quick hits, then people have to trust you. People have to really see that you really do care, like for real care, authentically care. And I learned my very, very, very first search I did was for some kind of tax position and everything. I worked really hard, and it was my first one, and got the company made an offer to this guy, and he declined. And I was like, damn, I worked so hard in this, and he declined. At that time, we were just doing contingency search. In other words, you get paid if you place a person.
Right.
So no, I don't do that. But and I was thinking, man, that sucks. That how can you turn it down? It's like, I worked so hard, and how can you turn it down? And he said to me, I just didn't feel it was the right fit. And it hit me. It's not about me,
right?
That I did all that work. It was about, is it the right fit for this person? And is it the right? And is he the right fit for the people in the company? And and sometimes you gotta fail or get smacked to get what you already know, maybe even. And so I do remember that, and I'm in it for the long-term relationship all the time, because that's the way you don't get burnt out. Basically, is if you're really in it for the right reason to help people, then it's not about making a sale. It's not about all this energy to be on. I remember I did a blog once that you don't need to be on all the time. Just be. Just be. Because being on all the time is exhausting, actually.
Right.
So, and it's again back to that caring thing that goes back to my grandfather again, the whole thing about, I think people know if you care. I'll tell you a little thing I've done over the years is when someone gets an offer, I'd say, don't answer me now or whatever, go home. You obviously want to talk to your family, whatnot, but I want you to, and I learned this from sports. Sports teaches us a lot, right?
Yeah.
It teaches us so many things.
So true.
But I had a great teacher that taught me about visualization. He taught me about visualization. He was a coach also in the game. He taught me visualization if I'm preparing for a test, to visualize myself sitting at the desk beforehand. So when I get to sit down and the time starts, I don't waste 10, 15 minutes organizing my stuff. I've already been there and I'm doing it, or I've already been in the game before I'm in the game. And I actually tell them to go home. I want them to close their eyes. It works a lot better that way if they're cool with that. And I want you to think about getting up the next morning, getting dressed, putting on your suit, whatever, going to the car, driving there. You get there, you park in the parking lot, you walk in and, say hi, this one, that one. You go sit in your office, you go get some coffee, you're talking to people, you're getting on the phone to talk to whoever you're going to talk to, your boss, and then you go home and back home again. Tell me how that was. And the minimum it does is it makes them think more about, this is real. I've got to go do this now, because we all love to date and have people and being courted and all that. But then when you get married, you have laundry and bills and stuff to handle and everything, So it's like the same thing. It's fun. They want me. They're going to pay me this and that. But then you actually got to do the work. So in almost 30 years, I've had 2 that I remember, maybe 3, that have told me, man, that was great. I don't even want this job. I was just caught up in the whole thing. I'm gonna have to turn down. And different from my very, very, very first search as a young guy, where I was ticked. I was saying, great. If we're gonna, now's the time to know, not after. And the client obviously is super happy, because it costs money to have someone accept and then not be happy. So really that type of thing where the person sees that I really, 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 it's okay if they turn it down. In fact, there's no obligation of the leaders of the company to make an offer. There certainly isn't an obligation for the person to take it. That's not the game. The game is are we the right fit for each other? Is this going to be fantastic? And I think, that's where if you come across, because the people I work with now are mostly senior management, executive boards, and they're busy. They're smart, most of them. They're and it's all about trust. You don't really want to waste their time talking about something that's not an opportunity, and certainly I'm not going to try to sell them something. It has to be what we've called the right fit culture ad. And what I mean by that is, right fit doesn't mean you're exactly like everybody in the company. It means you add to the culture what you have, which includes diversity of experience, diversity of background, culture, language, whatever. You add to that culture. You don't want to hire people that are exactly the same as you. It doesn't make any sense at all, even though people have done that for years before. But that's another thing that really makes a difference, is where that they, especially a lot of younger people these days, they're looking for that diverse. They're looking for the right opportunity. They're not looking for a recruiter to shove them into a job, somewhere. So that's kind of where I come from. And again, I compare a lot to sports, where people look at pro athletes and they say, man, it's a blast to be a pro athlete. And it's great. If I was playing pro hockey, I'd be happier than ever. But they have crappy days too, and they have stuff that goes on, and it becomes routine and everything, and you get burnt out. Even if you're doing the thing you love the most, you get burnt out unless there's a why there, unless your passion is really there, and you've got people around you that complement that. And so that's kind of like, I was honored when they said that about Business Week, but it again, it's not rocket science. It's about taking care of people.
Got it. And again, for our listeners out there, to find Mark or his great organization, you could go to fifthtelement.group, fifthtelement.group with a 5 in front of it, fifth, 5, TH, element.group. At the Fifth Element Group, you are the Chief Human Element Officer. What does that mean to you?
No, you could have stopped it. What does that mean? Because it was a crazy. We were looking at titles, but it was a different title. And sometimes people would think I'm the HR director,
right?
Just because bam, 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 that's what they would think. But we have a chief OmniWin officer, we have a chief impact officer, we got a chief family officer, and so on. And the key to that title is we have a human element practice, which again is the complementary practice for our OmniWin consulting practice of aligning brands with social impact. And the human element practice includes the whole executive search practice. It includes a well-being initiative, and includes diversity and inclusion. And we wanted to make a point of, again, the fifth element is about humanity. We want to make a point that, again, it's not about just placing people. The human element is critical to everything we do, as obvious as that may sound. It's critical. With technology moving at the fastest pace ever, it's very easy to get in a riptide and forget that we're human beings. And people that I deal with that are looking potentially or open to good opportunities, they want to work with human beings that care. They really, really, really do. They want to work with human beings that have a purpose, that have a why, because they do also. And the other important element is they want to work with people that listen to also what their why is and what their passion is, and not just be all the same. This is what we do. You do have to be a team, but we're also individual human beings, and we have to listen to each other, hear what's going on with each other. The best leaders, there was one leader of a major company I was with recently, and he took me through his whole office, and he knew everybody's names. This is a big company. He knew everybody's names. He knew if they were having a baby, he knew what this was going on, that was going on. It was incredible. And
how great is that? That's awesome.
How good does that make you feel?
Really good. Yeah.
And it reminds me of another story. Way back when with Deloitte, at that time it was called Northern Telecom and Bell Canada, they were clients of ours. And I was a young kid, and I was like a little kid because I would ask questions all the time. The sky is blue. Why? Because it does this. Why? You just keep asking why. And so the CEO happened to be in the office because we were at corporate headquarters, and I'm doing some grunt work of adding numbers or God knows what. and I'd gone to one of the factories there to do an inventory, which that part was kind of interesting because you get to see real what the business is about.
Right.
And he happened to come by and say hi, which I thought was cool. And I said hi, and I said I was just at the factory. It was really cool. I was talking to this one and that one. I saw how they were making these phones that no one's even seen yet, and they were making flip phones. This is back in like late 70s, flip phones and all sorts of things that were going on. And I said it was really cool. Then somebody told me how they improved this and that. And he said, "Well, that's amazing. I haven't even been there myself." And I said, I started thinking to myself, I wasn't a genius, but how does he even know what's going on if he hasn't been to there? And it also reminded me always about how at that time, head of production people weren't even on the executive committee or anything. They were not. They were just considered that they were out there and we'll decide what to do over here. But you don't know what's going on. And I told him, they're amazing what's going on over there. And when he said he's never been, I was kind of surprised. But so it's funny. 2 or 3 days or a week later, when I saw him again, he came over and he said, I went to the factory. I was amazed too. there's so many things those people know.
Wow.
And he started doing an address that they have communicated to factories and all their employees about the CEO talking about stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, man, it wasn't genius, but actually made an impact there by easily telling him that those people know what they're doing. It was so interesting. And to his credit, he went, basically. He could have not gone, especially back then.
Right.
But to his credit, he went. And, you see these things through your life that catch you at a time, whatever it is, and they make an impact. So he made an impact on me on that, and I hope it made an impact on him. And but it's all about people, right? It's all about people.
So leaders with care, leaders who care. Talk about the original coming together of that partnership and launching that program, Leaders Who Care, and then take us into what you've been doing recently with your video interview project and how that's evolved and developed over since your initial launch of the Leaders Who Care initiative. Yeah,
and I almost wouldn't call it an initiative. I would call it a way of being, or something that we
Fair
do.
Enough.
We work and engage and commit to working with leaders who care.
Okay.
Which gives them basically an extra recognition, because really good talent knows that we work with leaders who care about their financial well-being, their physical well-being, and their mental well-being, as well as they care about the planet, they care about environment, they care about the sustainable development goals. And we don't just say it, because the other half of our core business is aligning their brand with social impact. So they really have to show that they really do care, because I learned a while back, candidates are smart, especially younger ones now, and every era, young generation comes up and adds new stuff for sure. But this one's an amazing one. They'll go into interviews, and I will guarantee you they will ask, what are you doing about the environment? Do you care about the oceans? What are you doing for the employees with respect to our well-being? They will ask these questions, which we didn't really ask back when.
And they want tangible answers. They don't want just some fluff, right?
Oh, man, it's not. Yeah, we'll give you an extra week off when you work here 17 years or something, I mean, geez.
Yeah, that don't cut it anymore.
No, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful because life isn't all about money, obviously, and it doesn't make you happy, but you don't sacrifice money to do good. You don't have to do that. It actually has finally come to the point that leaders who care about both making money and having an impact do better in both of those at the same time. And
I love it.
So that's kind of where the whole strength of the Leaders Who Care thing is. And some of the work we're doing with the amazing leaders. We were in Davos this last January.
Talk about that. Talk about Davos. Like, who you interview there, and how did that go?
Davos was actually great, and it seems this was the end of January, and we're in May, and it seems like it was years ago.
Doesn't it?
Back then.
January for all of us seems like it was years ago. I mean, you're so right on that.
It's so much how the world has changed. But so we went specifically with four clients, but we also have really amazing community, which I'm proud to say that we were fortunate. Forbes recognized our community as outstanding global brain trust network, and some really amazing leaders and influencers and client leaders and so on that are in it. And we went specifically with 4 that wanted to do something specific there. And then we bring delegates from our community to different events when we were having events, and they'll come back. But so, for example, one of the big clients we were able to set up with, media plays, strategic meetings, sitting on panels, making announcements. Another one we set up with, 2 or 3 corporate players there. This was a nonprofit one set up with corporate players that were really interested in what they did about trauma and counseling around the world. And mental health is a major issue.
Sure.
Another client of ours is a company that actually has an AI an AI technology that actually identifies, measures, and fixes with respect to your eyes and how it affects diabetes, and they're going to be expanding that into much more of how it impacts your eyes and your whole body. So technology there, and so Davos was basically like a platform. We're going to go back in January next year with more of that, more clients, but it's about really putting our clients in a position to achieve what they need to achieve, and a lot of it is about kind of like the search, kind of like what we do about putting the right fit together, people and people, or putting the right people of company A together with the right people of company B, or the right nonprofit for social impact. And
I love
it's again what we call is an omni-win. I guess we used to say a win-win, but it's really like an omni-win, where we may have 2, we may have 5 parties involved at the same time, and they all benefit, AI, or win, if you will, in one way or another. And it's interesting. I was taught a long time ago. Someone mentioned this to me. I never forgot. I never understood why in a sports league the media would say, well, company or the team A and team B had a trade. Team B won the trade. Team A lost the trade. Right. I said, well, that can't be very good for anybody if one team keeps losing trades and then one team keeps winning championships. If the league isn't of value because other teams are crappy or teams are losing trades, then how valuable is your championship? The league has no value. So we live on one planet. And if the planet sucks, and you're making a ton of money over here, but the planet sucks, what good is that? Right. Basically, we're all on the same planet. We're in the same league. Now, that doesn't take away from competition. Competition's great because it makes us all better. But to win a competition in a league that's super valuable is way better than playing tennis with somebody that you win all the time. Who cares about that? Right. It all applies. And one of the things I mentioned to you, one of the exciting things we've done recently is we combined with John Krasinski's Some Good News.
Yeah, tell us about that story. And you had some big wins recently with some huge brands. Please share those stories. I really want our listeners to hear about those.
Yeah, very, very cool. We were super honored to be part of it because John just blasted this thing, and Some Good News was exactly what everybody needed during this whole time. And
Amen.
And he put out the news, and people started responding because we were craving good news. So people would start bringing some good news about the nurses and frontline workers and drivers and little kids that are creating masks and you name it, all around, and just grew and grew and grew. And then being that what we did, we started talking to John and his team, and he's saying, and he sees that we bring corporate brands, align them to social impact. Well, there's a play here. So restaurant employees were suffering a lot. Guy Fieri started this restaurant employee relief fund. John knew him. We talked to some clients, to come in on this, and it's not about, you hogging the whole show. You're going to get mentioned for what you did, but it's about making a difference and aligning yourself with social impact. So the executives of PepsiCo were amazing. In 2 days, they were able to put a budget together from Pepsi and the foundation of $3 million to surprise Guy Fieri, saying, I understand you got $17 million in your employee fund. Well, our friends at PepsiCo want to bring that to $20 million. Wow. And Guy Fieri was like, no way. I got goosebumps. It's really amazing to see. And then it exploded in social media after that. 500 million people or more now have seen it. Pepsi.
That's incredible.
Is super thrilled. AT&T got better coverage on this, they said, than their Super Bowl ad, basically.
What?
And
oh my God.
His daughter, John's daughter, does a lot of the drawings, and she drew a Pepsi logo as a kid would. Pepsi's now putting that on T-shirts and selling it all for charity, and so on and so forth. And recently, this last week, we did the same thing with Starbucks, who are spectacularly wonderful, and they helped start. This is going to be the show from now on. Is going to be John still be in it in tidbits, but it's going to be people around the world bringing some good news to the show. And there's now going to be a Some Good News Some Good merch for merchandise marketplace that's already opened now.
That's great.
Some good new stuff, and Starbucks initially for $1 million is going to match the first $1 million that comes in to give to charities that are identified, and it's going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing to bring good news and to have social impact. And guess what? It's good for business too. And we got to have it be good for business because people have to make money. People have to have livelihoods. People have whatnot.
Right.
And more good news can happen.
Yeah. So here's one of your Omni wins. You have John's channel getting more publicity and more visibility, which is only going to attract more good news for all of us to share and enjoy and get inspired from. Pepsi wins. Guy Fieri's organization wins. Starbucks wins. These wins all over the place here. So that's why it's much more than, like you just said, win-win. This is an omni win. This is an omni impact, really.
Yeah, this is the opposite of a pandemic on that side. This is a good contagion thing right here.
That's awesome. That is just so amazing. Hey, before we have to split for today, you mentioned your grandfather. Give our listeners one other key influencer in your life besides your grandfather, who was obviously a huge figure and impact in your life.
Well, this one may be maybe a little bit weird. So I'm Jewish, and I've always been interested in peace. We're doing stuff for peace right now, actually called Business for Peace, business leaders who care about peace and how it's good for business and how it's good for people. But one person that influenced me that I've never met, but I did see, was Anwar Sadat. And he just inspired me when I heard him speak. It inspired me that he knew he was probably going to be assassinated at some point. It's an amazing story. Egypt was the arch rival to Israel, as we all know, forever, ever. Right. Funny enough, they still have a peace treaty between each other, and it's others that are our problem. But so he went against everything. I mean, talk about a big dream and knowing that he's in danger all the time. And he and what really, so I read a lot of his stuff about what he wanted to do and how peace was important and all this stuff. But where it really then hit home was he was the first Egyptian president to make a speech in Israel, literally. And he was in Haifa, and I saw the thousands of Israelis cheering an Egyptian president in Israel. And so to me, it almost shows what's bigger than that almost. And I'm sure there is something bigger somewhere or equally big, or it's not a matter of size, but how big, how humble, how inspiring, how big a dream, how brave, and how loving was he to do something like that, and see how the people of Israel were so taken by how much he cared to be there, no matter what the danger was that he was there, and it just shows time and time again that whatever you think is impossible, it's not impossible. It's super possible, and it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's possible. So that was a big influencer for me too.
We're going to end, but we're going to bring it all back to sports.
Cool.
And I know you and me are both sports junkies, and we love the analogies in sports and life and sports and business. Recently, last weekend, the Michael Jordan documentary ended, The Last Dance. Yeah. Did you have a chance to watch any of those episodes?
Every single one.
Okay. And me too. And more than once. And my favorite episode was episode number 8. At the end of episode number 8, Jordan was on screen, and he was finishing his comments, and he got very emotional. And he ended with this quote. And I want to ask you what this quote means to you and to leaders who care. He said, "Winning has a price, and leadership has a price." What does that mean to Mark? and to your great work and important work that you're doing at the fifth element. And how does that interrelate with the Leaders Who Care, series that you've created? What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, because you saw his determination throughout that whole show, like the highest level of determination, which is absolutely necessary to achieve what he achieved. And that's the price, and he was willing to pay the price to get it. And I'm going to do a mini out of the circle, back in the circle. Kobe always said something too, Kobe Bryant, that I knew before he passed away. But when he passed away, they said it over and he said, most people are looking for the dream. The dream's over there, and you got to have the dream. You got to have the dream. What they're not realizing is this is the dream right this second. Yeah. And that was, it's almost like enjoy the journey, if you will, but in a different way. This is the dream. And I think, Michael, just like all of us, isn't perfect, but he committed to what he had to, the hard work he had to do above and beyond to be at that level, and almost a lot of times take the team on his shoulders. But he also committed to making Pippen and Rodman and them better. He committed to making Steve Kerr better. And how much did he contribute to Steve Kerr's life because of that? And he didn't judge Rodman. He'd be pissed at him if he wasn't at practice, but he didn't judge him. He said, we need you. We need you here. And he brought him in. And I don't know if you remember the story. He said when Rodman once, after he did something stupid, came to his room and asked for a beer, and he gave him the beer. He said Rodman never said he was sorry, but that was his way of saying he was sorry, by coming to his room.
Because he never did that. That before. That was way out of his character. Exactly.
So a leader who cares, listens, and knows about the people around them, and remembers and gets that, because we're all the same, but we're also all different. And I think if you want to, winning isn't. Who said winning isn't? How did he say it? Winning isn't everything, but it really is. I think Michael was committed to being the best he could be, and in that same light, he made others around him, so much better. And the devotion that he had to his parents, especially his father, you can see the emotion when his father wasn't there and how it impacted him. So you saw his vulnerability as well. And I think people around him knew that, and he was okay to do that. But I also think he kind of wished he could be allowed to be more vulnerable too. And that's another sometimes hard thing a leader has to go through, is to not fake it. By a long shot, don't fake it. You want to be authentic, and leadership is being vulnerable, but it's not easy sometimes when you're leading. And so I think he cared about his team. He cared about representing Chicago. He cared about his parents, and I think that's what a leader does. And even if people, and he even said it, he kind of said it, like, not everybody's going to love him, and you can't get all the people to love you all the time, right?
It's the truth.
But
if it's not for you, and he said, if I'm not for you, then find somebody else that inspires you.
Yeah, right fit, right? It's got to be the right fit. And but the bottom line is people recognize leaders that really do care about them. Really, really, really do care about them, because at the end of the day, the thing that fills our heart and soul the most is actually feeling like you belong and you're part of a community, whether that's a Chicago Bulls team or your family or your department in your company or your city or your country. Somebody that makes you feel like you belong, is amazing leader.
Well, you're amazing, Mark, and we're just thankful for your time today, for your thoughts today, and for all the great work and impact that you're making. You're constantly making the world a better place and making a great impact with your organization, the Fifth Element Group. You can find them at Fifth. It's a 5th element.group, fithelement.group. Mark, thank you for all your impacts. Thank you for your friendship, continued great work, and I look forward to having you back on to tell more stories like today that you've done with John Krasinski, Starbucks, Pepsi, and with your Leaders Who Care series. We're so honored to have you today. Thanks again for all the impacts that you make. It's an omni impact for all of us.
And I want to thank you for everything you've done. We've known each other for a while now, and I think I've recycled myself just based on everything you've done. So it's a super pleasure being with you, and I appreciate the positive attitude. And let's keep making a difference, man.
You're on.